Kathleen and I were so excited to go on our trip to Ireland, but our flight from Kansas City to Chicago was delayed for almost 8 hours before it was finally canceled, and after we'd already missed our connecting flight to Dublin. So we had to go home and come back the next day, and we were flying to Dallas this time to try to avoid all the other storms predicted for the other airport hubs. But we ended up flying straight into a big storm system, which shut down the airport right after we landed. Still, our Dublin flight was only delayed an hour, so we were exhausted, but our flight was very nice and trouble-free. I missed the tram again. We had lost a whole day of sightseeing, so we just tried to go to a few places in the afternoon that we could walk to from our hotel. And Grafton Street is very near Trinity College in the heart of Dublin, and it is famous for shopping, restaurants, and street performers. There is no car traffic on the street, and so it's kind of like an outdoor mall, which leads right down to a really beautiful park called St. Stephen's Green. The St. Stephen's Green Shopping Center was built in the 1980s, and many people say it reminds them of a Mississippi riverboat because of the intricate green ironwork on the facade. But we may have had the last look at it because the city has decided to tear it down and replace it with this modern facade that most people are rejecting as soulless and ugly. We decided to have some lunch at a cute French cafe that we found on a side street about 2 blocks before the park entrance.
So here we are at Bruxelles restaurant, like a Parisian type restaurant actually in Dublin, Ireland. And I'm going to get we're both getting Toasties sandwiches. I'm getting the Bruxelles ham sandwich, and Kathleen's getting it with chicken. And here's what the rest is. And Murphy's, got her Murphy. Try it. Do you like it?
Oh, that is good.
We haven't. So this is St. Stephen's Green that we're walking into now. Look at this guy. This guy's just ready to roost. My God, he's so big.
He might be a different breed.
He is.
He doesn't look like a pigeon because of his beak.
No,
He
he's
looks like,
more.
look at his webbed feet.
After looking this up, we found out that this is a type of seagull called a herring gull. And it makes sense because Dublin is a port city on the Irish Sea. So we were right that these birds probably boss the pigeons around, not just because they're bigger. They are known for being aggressive, and they'll sometimes dive down to swipe sandwiches or other food right out of people's hands. So this is probably why there are so many "Don't Feed the Birds" signs in the park. We got back on the street just in time to see the modern streetcar in Dublin that's called a Luas. We didn't get to ride on it, but it was neat to see it up close. It sounded a lot more quiet than the subways in New York.
maybe we'll come back for a pint at O'Donoghue's. O'Donoghue's. The Guinness. And there's a double-decker bus right there. We may not get to ride it because we ran out of time because of everything.
We walked over to Marion Square Park where we saw some gorgeous tulips. I am so glad we decided to go to Ireland at the beginning of May when so many flowers were blooming. We were on our way to see the statue of the famous Irish playwright and author Oscar Wilde, which was made by artist Danny Osborne in 1997. It looked like his clothes were painted with bright glossy colors, but I later found out that his green jacket is actually carved from jade and a pink stone called thulite, and his pants are a blue pearl granite. So the stone was very polished, and no wonder it had this very ethereal and realistic look at the same time. I also didn't know that Oscar was so tall and that the artist made the statue to be his full height of 6'3". This is the beautiful townhouse where Oscar Wilde lived as a child across the street from Marion Park. And the building is now owned by the American College of Dublin. And they'd give tours, but their summer schedule didn't start until after our trip ended, so we weren't able to go inside. We kept walking north until we came to the edge of the river Liffey. And way off in the distance is the Samuel Beckett Bridge. It was built in 2009, and it was designed to resemble a harp lying on its edge. Samuel Beckett was a famous 20th century Irish playwright and a novelist. On the other side of the river is the Jeanie Johnston ship in front of the Epic Irish Emigrant Museum, where we plan to go next.
We're here at the Jeanie Johnston boat. It's either an actual or a replica of one of the family ships.
Our mother and father both had some ancestors who came from Ireland sometime after the Irish potato famine that lasted from around 1845 to 1852. So one of the reasons we wanted to see Ireland was to go to all the places where they might have lived and get a feeling for what it was like to have to move to America at that time.
Just before we go any further, I'm just going to introduce you guys to this lady on the front of the ship here. It is not Jeanie Johnston, who you probably expected it to be. The lady on the front of this ship is someone way more important. Okay, this most important person you're going to meet in this entire country. And this here is Eru, the goddess of Ireland. Okay, this is who created Ireland out of the Atlantic Ocean. It's also where you get the name of the country. So in English you say Ireland, but in the Irish language the name of this country is Era, which comes from Eru, the goddess. So the country is named after her. She created it out of the Atlantic, and she's protecting on the ship. Someone has also mentioned to me recently though that Eru looks a lot like Lady Gaga. So I'll leave that up to you folks. It's either Lady Gaga or it's Eru. Either way, we're going to go this way. So first of all, welcome aboard the Jeanie Johnston. This ship, it is only a replica. It was built here in Ireland in County Kerry. We started building it in 1997. It was supposed to take 3 years, but we like to take our time. Alright, so it took 6 years to build this ship instead of 3, and it cost 14 million, which is about 10 million more than it was supposed to cost. So way over time, way over budget. In 2003, the replica sails on the same voyage as the original, leaving from Kerry in the west of Ireland, sailing to Canada, America, all over Europe, and back to Dublin in 2012. Hasn't sailed since. She will remain here for the future. Okay, now the original ship has a much better story. Built in Quebec in Canada in 1847, took only 8 months to build the original, and they built 5 other ships in the same year. So they built 6 ships in 1 year, and we built 1 ship in 6 years. When the original was built though, it was designed as a cargo ship. So it was designed to carry timber and not people. So the original ship didn't have any beds, it had no kitchen, no toilets, no windows, none of these nice luxuries that we're all used to when we travel. But when John Donovan bought this ship to import wood to Ireland, he had an empty ship going to Canada to collect his cargo. So he decides to fit it with beds, use it as an emigrant ship going over, remove the beds and use it as a cargo ship in the return voyage back to Ireland. You can only imagine on this ship 4 to 6 weeks with your family and 200 passengers. Your other option to cross the Atlantic was to go on a coffin ship. And that's what these were called, coffin ships, because of the high numbers of deaths on board. You'd be happy to know though, the Jeannie Johnston was the only ship from the famine with no deaths on board. So this ship has a perfect record, and we're going to keep it that way today if you don't mind. So let's be careful where we're walking, no climbing those masts, okay? Now, to compare this ship to the coffin ships, I'll describe those. On those ships, you had no access on deck. You came on, you went downstairs, and you stayed there for 6 weeks with 400 people. So disease would spread very quick. And on those ships, you were expected to bring your own food on board. Now, if you're leaving the country because you can't afford food, you're never going to achieve enough for you and your family to cross the Atlantic for 6 weeks. So unfortunately, starvation and disease in just 1 year on board these ships in 1847, 50,000 Irish people died in that year alone, just sailing from Ireland to Canada and America. So 50,000 deaths. Coffin ships was a very suitable name. But like I mentioned, the Jeannie is not a coffin ship, and that was because of its owner, John Donovan. So John didn't want to run a coffin ship. He had a good business, a good name. Didn't want to ruin it by running a coffin ship. Hires the best captain he could find, Captain James Attridge. His first job as a captain is to hire a doctor. Okay, now Dr. Richard Blennerhassett, first thing he does, stands at the entrance and checks every person coming on. If you're sickness, you're not getting on board the Jeannie. So no sick people permitted, you're off to a good start. When crossing the Atlantic then, every passenger on this ship was guaranteed at least half an hour on deck every day. So fresh air, exercise, some sunshine. More important though was clean toilets. On the other ships you couldn't clean the toilets. You weren't allowed on deck to do so, so the buckets would fill up, spill over and spread cholera. Okay, not a problem on this ship because you're allowed on deck to clean them. While you're on deck, bring your blankets and shake them off over the side of the ship. Get rid of the lice, okay, and they were spreading typhus. So access on deck meant fresh air, clean toilets, clean blankets, and that was the lower number of passengers meant no disease. So very simple. Do you guys like sea biscuits? You guys like sea biscuits? Yeah, nobody likes sea biscuits, okay? Yeah, it's twice cooked bread with bugs and insects in it usually. And the bugs and insects gives you protein, you get carbs from the biscuit, you dip this in molasses, a sugary syrup like honey, you've got energy, carbs, protein, everything you need. On top of that you're getting sugar, rice, molasses, sea biscuits, oatmeal, flour, water and tea. So nothing amazing but decent food, okay? And I suppose that means no starvation on board this ship. So you put all that together, good food, a doctor, a clean ship and a lower number of passengers. Very simple things to do, unfortunately not done on the other ships.
Even though we were exhausted from jet lag and walking around Dublin all afternoon, we hurried back to our hotel to get ready to go out for a dinner show that featured traditional Irish music and dancing. And we really enjoyed it so much we forgot we were tired. After the show, we crossed back over the River Liffey on the Halfpenny pedestrian bridge. It was originally named the Wellington Bridge, built in 1816, and there was a halfpenny toll for 100 years. But because the way people pronounced it, eventually the silent L and F was replaced with an apostrophe in the spelling of halfpenny. We walked through the famous pub district called the Temple Bar, and there is also an actual pub called the Temple Bar that is a tourist hotspot. But unfortunately, we were too tired to go inside, so we just enjoyed the pretty lights from the street. We had to get up early for our trip to Donegal on Ireland's west coast, but we enjoyed this hotel so much I wanted to show our room. The whole hotel had just been remodeled a year ago, and it had such a nice decor with quaint historic pictures on the walls. The hot shower was the best one on our trip, with a rain-style shower head and beautiful tiles.
Today they're okay, so I can draw properly.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Get a picture of it. It's so pretty. Let me turn it this way. He did really well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then this is our
Kid.
our brioche, I think, or whatever they call it, panna cotta. Oh, it almost looks like he has a little face on there.
It would have been so nice to have had that one more day in Dublin that we had booked. But you never know when flight delays and cancellations are going to cause havoc in your plans. Anyway, we really enjoyed seeing what we could see in Dublin, and we were lucky to have had so much sunshine and blooming flowers too. It's a bustling city, but it's still small enough that you can easily walk around most of the central old town areas near the river. And like this hotel that kept its cool architecture and made it fresh, new, clean, and comfortable, Dublin feels very modern without losing any of its wonderful charm. We decided we'll just have to go back to Dublin someday.